Story 1. It was the day after Christmas. The four of us were sitting around a campfire. They were my wife Nell, who is 42, my daughter Nita, who is 21, my son Mike, who is 20, and me, Bob Mitra, 43. We had just returned from a nice dinner and were sitting around enjoying a bottle of wine. "There's something we need to talk about," Nell said. "I don't know how to put it any other way. I want a divorce. I'll move out the day after tomorrow, after Nita and Mike leave. I know it's sudden, but I've found someone new and I'm moving in with him. I talked to both my kids and they wanted me to announce it in their presence so you wouldn't do anything wrong. So even my kids knew about it and did nothing to stop what was going on. I looked at the two of them and didn't know what to do. What do you do when your whole family is standing in front of you ready to strip you naked? I have this divorce agreement for you." She handed me the divorce agreement and I began to read it. She continued, "I think it would be best if you signed it right now. I'm in no mood to work for this marriage, and frankly, no one in their right mind would. My only problem has been the kids, and since they are okay with it, I think I have everything I need to move on." "If you have everything, why are you demanding so much from our joint assets? Is he a pauper or incapacitated?" I asked her. "I don't claim much," she said. "I think it's only fair that I get this much." "Fair? A full claim on my assets and my 401k accounts is fair? What's all this talk of mental cruelty you've written here?" I turned to the kids. "Do you kids really believe she's doing the right thing in claiming my business? Do you really support her claim that I am an abusive husband?" The kids looked shocked and Nita screamed, "What the fuck, Mom? I thought that man you slept with was loaded with money. The only reason I agreed to support you was because you promised me a nice house when I got married." "I think she was talking about that house. I can see that she has a claim on this house too," I sneered. Nell became agitated. She snatched the papers from my hands and began to read. As she read, her eyes widened. Her mouth was ajar the whole time she was reading. She tried to say something, and with a crackle, she couldn't utter a word. Mike spoke for the first time since this whole thing started. "You're actually cheating me too by taking my inheritance. I'm sure you and Adrian know nothing about plumbing and will run the company into the ground without Dad at the helm." "It shouldn't have been in the paperwork," Nell said. "Are you saying that your lawyer drew up those terms without talking to you? Did you even read the papers before you presented them to me?" I asked. "No, to be honest, I didn't read them. The papers were prepared by Adrian's lawyer. I haven't had time to read it since I received them." "Good luck with a man who's already cheating on you. I'll draw up a packet of documents and send it to you for your signature. If you don't like my agreement, then we'll meet in court." I paused. "One more thing. From the day after tomorrow, I don't want to hear anything from either of you for the rest of my life. If you come and find out that I am dead, show me some respect and don't come to my funeral. A daughter who is willing to sell her father for a house, a son who is more interested in his inheritance than in his father's happiness, and a woman who is willing to leave her loving husband for a property-stealing crook are all things I can do without for the rest of my life." I was hurt and angry. "If you didn't read the papers before you gave them to me, ask the asshole how those sentences got into the contract. Unless you want to be all alone, you better believe him when he tells you he didn't do it. He'll deny everything, that he prepared this version of the treaty when I'm going to fight injustice. Fighting him will leave you alone. I definitely don't want anything more to do with you." I stood up and opened the refrigerator to grab a beer. The three of them sat there, shocked, looking like complete idiots. I walked over to the living room with my beer and sat down. Through the window, I could see Nell arguing animatedly on the phone, probably with Adrian, who must be denying everything. Nita and Mike were arguing heatedly in the kitchen. I pulled out my cell phone and called my best friend Leroy. You see, he works at Adrian's law firm. After all, if he hadn't alerted me to my wife's intentions, I wouldn't have been able to tamper with the divorce papers that were in her desk drawer. My original plan had been to drive a wedge between Nell and the children. Now that she'd tried to slip it to me without reading the agreement, a wedge had been driven between the lovers as well. Who says well-thought-out plans don't get even better? Story 2. I had a conversation with Betty today. I mentioned it to my wife Veronica when she brought me a glass of Jack Daniels. "How is she? We haven't seen each other in over 2 weeks." I can't believe I can go this long without gossiping with her. Did you guys talk about anything interesting? She asked, sitting down with her drink. I think it's interesting, although, who am I kidding? This is the most interesting and at the same time the most painful thing in years, I spoke, taking the first sip and savoring the taste. She suspects that John is cheating on her. Veronica looked surprised when I dropped the bombshell. John would never do anything like that. He's too devoted to his family to have fun. I hope you told her that, she said in a dismissive tone. I did, but she insists there are too many obvious signs. I'm a divorce lawyer, and I know that most friends and family don't want to believe that someone they know could be a cheater. What are the signs? She asked. Promise me that if I tell you, you must keep it an absolute secret and not tell a living soul. I will. My wife wasn't one to gossip, but I had to be sure. She was supposed to have her tubes tied, but last month he insisted on doing a vasectomy on him instead. I don't know a single person who would voluntarily agree to have their tubes cut. I wouldn't do that. I spoke up and took another sip of the magic liquid. He was only thinking about her comfort. He's a very considerate guy in that sense. They only have one child. Why would they even go to such lengths? She asked, taking another sip. Because we were childhood friends, we knew each other pretty well. Betty, Veronica, John, and I had been together since second grade. It was strange watching us together. Betty and John were white, with blue eyes and golden hair, while Veronica and I were dark as night. Even in elementary school, we knew we would be friends for the rest of our lives. It was painful to realize that was no longer possible. I know. I love John like a brother, but if he cheated on her, I will tear him apart with my bare hands and bury him in 2 different counties. I'll make sure his family knows about his cheating, his firm knows about it, and I'll also make sure he really screws up in the divorce proceedings. I am the best up-and-coming divorce attorney in town for a reason. Why would you do anything? It's a private matter between the two of them. At any rate, you should stay as far away from their mess as possible, she said. I wish I could talk to her and tell her to forget such silly notions. He will never cheat on her, period. Rest assured, I wouldn't listen to your request that we stay out of the mess or step in and try to fix it. I would oppose a cheating spouse because, as a divorce attorney, I've seen too many happy families break up, and I've never felt any sympathy for a cheating spouse. Besides, Betty is like a sister to me. She'd stop a speeding bullet for me. You know I have no family left. You 3 are the only family I know. I'm going to hate John for taking that away from me. Did she say anything else to you? Her curiosity was piqued. Not much. She was heartbroken, but she seems convinced that John is cheating on her. Tomorrow she would know for sure. How? Veronica suddenly became agitated. Even my first reaction was that John would never cheat, and I tried to convince Betty, but she didn't want to hear anything. So I suggested that before she came face to face with John, I should see if her suspicions were correct. I was rather harsh, if I may say so. A private detective had been following John for the past 10 days, and he would submit a final report tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. Betty has asked that the 2 of us accompany her to the company office. I think it's just in case her suspicions are correct. She wants us there for moral support. By this time, both our glasses were empty. I got up to pour another and asked her if she needed a refill. Yes, pour me a bigger one, and when you get back, we have something to talk about. Her hands were shaking as she held out the glass to me. I'm sure she didn't notice the smile that played across my face.